Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, wondering if you've saved enough for retirement? Maybe you're asking, will my savings last as long as I do? Or perhaps you've heard stories from friends who retired full of excitement, only to run into unexpected bumps down the road. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Retirement should be a time of freedom, of enjoying the fruits of decades of hard work. But a few missteps can turn the dream into a stress-filled puzzle. That's why today, we're going to walk through 5 costly retirement mistakes that so many folks over 60 end up making, often without even realizing it. And more importantly, we'll talk about how you can sidestep them to protect your peace of mind and your pocketbook. Now, let's start with a mistake that catches even the savviest retirees off guard. Picture this. You've just retired. You've got your bucket list ready, travel, hobbies, maybe spoiling the grandkids a little. It's thrilling, right? But here's the thing. Many people get so caught up in that initial rush of freedom that they start spending like they're on a permanent vacation. Dinner out every night, a cruise here, a new car there. Before they know it, they've blown through a big chunk of their savings in the first few years. Take my friend Linda and her husband, Tom. They retired at 65 with a solid nest egg. But after 2 years of checking off bucket list trips and helping their daughter with a down payment on a house, they realized they'd spent nearly 30% of their savings. Suddenly, they're recalculating everything, cutting back on the very things that brought them joy. The lesson here: retirement isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. You've got to pace yourself. A good rule of thumb: work with a financial advisor to create a realistic spending plan, one that lets you enjoy today and protects your tomorrow. Now, speaking of tomorrow, let's talk about something many of us don't want to think about, but absolutely have to plan for: healthcare costs. Here's a number that might shock you. The average couple retiring today at 65 will need around $315,000 saved just to cover healthcare expenses in retirement. And that's with Medicare. Why? Because Medicare doesn't cover everything: dentures, hearing aids, long-term care, or even some prescription drugs. My neighbor Carl learned this the hard way. He'd saved diligently, but when his wife needed a knee replacement, followed by months of physical therapy, they were hit with thousands in out-of-pocket costs. It drained their emergency fund and forced them to dip into investments they'd hoped to leave to their kids. So what can you do? First, please don't skip supplemental insurance. Look into Medicare Advantage plans or Medigap policies to fill those coverage gaps. And if long-term care insurance feels too pricey now, consider setting aside a separate savings fund just for health needs. It's like packing an umbrella. You might not need it, but you'll be grateful it's there if a storm hits. Now, let's tackle a silent thief that's easy to overlook: inflation. You felt it at the grocery store, right? A gallon of milk costs twice what it did 20 years ago. But when you're retired, inflation isn't just a nuisance. It's a threat to your entire financial plan. If your savings aren't growing, they're shrinking in buying power every single year. Imagine you've got $50,000 tucked away. If inflation averages 3, $50,000 tucked away. If inflation averages 350,000 will only have the buying power of about 37,200 today. That's cyclosing. 37,200 today. That's cyclosing 13,000 without spending a dime. So how do you fight back? Keep a portion of your savings in investments that grow over time, like stocks or inflation-protected bonds. And revisit your budget yearly to adjust for rising costs. It's not about being a Wall Street expert. It's about staying nimble. Now we've covered 3 big pitfalls: overspending early, underestimating healthcare, and ignoring inflation. But there are 2 more mistakes that could make or break your retirement comfort, and we'll get into those next. For now, though, I'd love to hear from you. Have you or someone you know faced any of these challenges? Drop a comment below. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. And remember, Retirement isn't about perfection. It's about making small, smart choices that add up to a lifetime of security. So take a deep breath, grab a cup of tea, and let's keep building that safety net together. You know, retirement is a bit like tending a garden. It takes patience, care, and a little know-how to keep things thriving year after year. And just like a sudden frost can damage your roses, there are a few financial surprises that can catch retirees off guard if they're not prepared. Let's keep building that safety net we talked about by diving into the next two costly mistakes and how you can avoid them. First up, let's talk about your investments. Now, I know the word investing might make some of us nervous, especially after retirement. You might think, shouldn't I play it safe now? Or maybe you're tempted to keep chasing big returns to grow your nest egg. Well, here's the tricky part. Meet my cousin, Jerry. When he retired, he moved all his savings into safe investments, bonds, CDs, cash under the mattress, you name it. He figured, no risk, no stress. But here's the problem. Over time, inflation quietly ate away at his savings. Meanwhile, his friend Martha did the opposite. She kept all her money in stocks, hoping for growth. Then the market dipped, and she lost nearly 20% of her portfolio in 1 year. Both learned the hard way. Retirement investing isn't about avoiding risk, it's about balancing it. So what's the sweet spot? Many advisors suggest keeping a portion of your savings in growth-oriented investments, like stocks or mutual funds, even in retirement. Why? Because that growth can help offset inflation and keep your income steady for decades. But balance it with safer options, like bonds or annuities, to cushion market swings. Think of it like a good recipe. Too much salt ruins the dish, but just enough makes it sing. Now, let's shift gears to a mistake that's easy to miss until it's too late. Taxes. Ugh, right? But here's the kicker. How you withdraw your retirement savings can cost you thousands, or save you thousands, depending on the moves you make. Take my buddy Ray. He started pulling money straight from his 401k the day he retired. Seemed simple enough. But guess what? Every withdrawal bumped him into a higher tax bracket. By the end of the year, he owed the IRS way more than he'd planned, and it even reduced his Social Security benefits. The key here is order. Most folks don't realize that tapping the right accounts first can save you a fortune. For example, start with taxable accounts, like savings or brokerage funds. Then move to tax-deferred accounts, like 401k, or IRAs. And leave Roth accounts for last. Why? Roth withdrawals are tax-free, so they're golden later in retirement when other income sources might push your taxes higher. And here's a pro tip. If you're over 72, don't forget those required minimum distributions. The IRS will come knocking if you skip them. A quick chat with a tax advisor could save you headaches and penalties down the road. Now we've covered two more big pitfalls: sticking to an outdated investment strategy and overlooking tax-smart withdrawals. But here's the good news. Every step you take to avoid these mistakes is a step toward a retirement that's as vibrant and worry-free as this garden around me. So, let's keep this conversation growing. Have you adjusted your investment mix or tax strategy recently? Share your wins or lessons learned in the comments below. Your wisdom might be the nudge someone else needs to take action. And remember, retirement isn't about getting everything perfect. It's about making thoughtful choices that let you relax, enjoy life, and savor every moment. You know, one of the things I love most about retirement is the gift of time. Time to slow down. Time to appreciate the little things, like watching the sun dip below the horizon or sharing stories with old friends. But here's the truth. Even with all the hard-earned time, retirement doesn't come with a rewind button. The choices we make today ripple into tomorrow. That's why, as we wrap up our conversation, I want to leave you with one last costly mistake that's quietly tripped up so many retirees, and it's not about money at all. It's about isolation. Now, I don't just mean loneliness, though that's part of it. I'm talking about pulling away from the world, step by step, until one day you realize you've lost touch with the people, hobbies, and passions that once made life sparkle. My Aunt Evelyn fell into this trap after she retired. She'd always been the life of the party, gardening, volunteering, hosting bridge nights. But when her husband passed, she slowly stopped returning calls, canceled her club memberships, and spent days alone watching TV. By the time her family noticed, she'd become a shadow of her former self. Here's the thing. Staying connected isn't just good for your soul. It's good for your wallet too. How? Well, friends and family often spot problems you might miss, like scams targeting seniors or changes in your health. Plus, staying engaged keeps your mind sharp, which helps you make smarter financial decisions. So join that book club, take a class at the community center, or simply call a friend for coffee. Your future self will thank you. Now, let's take a moment to weave everything together. We've walked through 5 big retirement pitfalls: overspending early, underestimating healthcare costs, ignoring inflation, clinging to an unbalanced investment strategy, and forgetting to plan for taxes. And finally, letting isolation dim your golden years. Each of these mistakes can chip away at your security, but each one is also avoidable with a little foresight. The secret? It's not about being perfect. It's about being proactive. Start by reviewing your budget with a trusted advisor. Revisit your insurance coverage annually. Keep a portion of your savings growing to outpace inflation. And most importantly, nurture your relationships like they're the priceless treasures they are. Retirement isn't a solo journey, it's a shared adventure. If you take one thing from our time together today, let it be this: you've worked too hard, too long, to let avoidable mistakes steal your peace of mind. Small steps matter. Maybe today you'll call an advisor to review your investments. Maybe tomorrow you'll invite a neighbor over for tea. Or maybe you'll simply promise yourself to stay curious, stay connected, and keep learning. I'd love to hear how you're taking charge of your retirement journey. Drop a comment below. Tell me about a habit you've changed, a lesson you've learned, or even a worry you're working through. This community is here to lift each other up. And if you found this video helpful, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss our future chats about living your richest, fullest life after 60. As the sun sets on our conversation, I'll leave you with this thought. Retirement isn't an ending, it's a new beginning. A chance to write the next chapter on your own terms. So go ahead, savor that sunset, laugh with someone you love, and step into tomorrow with confidence. You've earned it. Share your story in the comments below. Let's inspire each other.